You? Who are you? Did he send you? And you know you're here. You have to help me escape before that monster comes back. I'm Scintilla. I found a way out through the Gate of Horn, but it's locked. So I told him about it, and instead of helping me escape, he locked me up. He wants to keep us all here forever. Or until we're turned to gold. He's a monster. You have to let me go so we can kill him and take his key. Sentius, my adoptive father. Furies help me. I'll castrate and crucify him. I don't know. He said the gods are on his side because they don't want us to escape either. Behind me, there's an aqueduct tunnel bringing water from outside the city, so it should lead us outside. The only problem is it's barred by a heavy locked gate, and he has the only key. I'm going to take that key from around his neck, even if it means cutting his throat to get it. I'm done caring about the golden rule. I just want out. Help me, and we can escape together. There won't be enough time. Just you and me. What do you say? There's no time. Wait, did you hear that? He's here. Quick, you have to let me go. It's now or never. What? No! You can't just leave me here! How can you be so heartless? It's no use. You'll never persuade him of anything. I'm telling you, he's a monster. Please. You're making a mistake.
So you survived the sister. Probably just a stroke of fortuna. Don't get cocky.
Harvey. You've returned. Do you have any news about your investigation? Me? What are you talking about? You know, you remind me of him. Al Worth. The fellow who came through the portal before you. Come now. Surely you didn't think you were the only one here who remembered everything. You see, my connection to the portal somehow preserves my memories from one loop to the next. Whether that was Proserpina's intention or a happy accident, I'll never know. But I'm surprised you hadn't noticed. Here I was thinking you were a little bit sharper than Al was. Or perhaps you're just more willing to break the rules. He was a moralistic fellow, never once compromised on his principles. And because of that fatal flaw, he relived this day many thousands of times before we finally had this conversation. I watched him come through the portal each time, always a little older, a little more disheveled, a little more haunted. And when he finally saw the futility of it all, as you're about to, it broke him. He drank a jug of wine, tied a noose around his neck, and took his own life, just before he was shot with a golden arrow. The next time I awoke, you showed up, but you've caught up to where he was so quickly. I mean, you've lived through the day, what, 7 times? Most impressive. And yet everything you've done has been in vain, because there's no escape, except the path that Al took, the path he wrote about on his tablet. What was it? Ah, yes. Best to take your own life now. So, you discovered my secret. So what? What are you going to do about it? Why? Isn't it obvious? Because I have grown attached to all this. My title, my beautiful villa, the sun on my face, the music of birds chirping. And as long as this day keeps repeating itself, I get to enjoy it all, over and over again, for eternity. Don't you see? I have found a way to prolong my life indefinitely, to cheat death. I have become, in effect, as immortal as the gods. Can you honestly say you would not wish the same for yourself? And why would I agree to that? You might want to think that through. If anyone so much as touches me, everyone dies. The only way you're getting this key is over my dead body. And if I die, I won't be able to open the portal for you again, meaning you'll have created a paradox. You see, it was my actions that brought you to this point in time. So if you kill me, you'll stop me from doing so, and you being here will be an impossibility. That means if I die, you'll be flung back to your original time, having caused the deaths of everyone here, and you'll never be able to undo it. Is that what you want? You and your pathetic morality. Nobody cares about your opinions, least of all, me. Understand that to me, you've never been anything more than a useful idiot, and you're no longer useful. I certainly hope not. In fact, I want it to go on and on forever until you wither and die like Al did, and the gods send yet another useful idiot to extend my life for me. What are you going to do? Beg the gods for help? They don't care about you, and neither do I. Now, get out of my villa. I'm bored with you.
Ave again. Did you find what you need? Well, I suppose we'd first need to figure out which god that is, and I'm afraid even I don't know, although I have my suspicions. This might sound like a strange question, but please, humor me. How did you find your way here? And nothing about that name seemed odd to you. Older. I see. I wonder if... No. I apologize. I don't mean to be cryptic. It's just that you've got me thinking. Have you spoken with any of the others about how they arrived here too? I really think you should. Go around and ask them what they remember and see if you notice any patterns. Good. Thank you. But please be careful. I just don't want to see what happened to Livia happen to you too. Up until a few weeks ago, she was a perfectly productive member of our little community, darning clothes and cutting hair. She was always so chatty, always seeking out newcomers and asking them where they were from and how they wound up here. And then, about a month ago, she suddenly changed. She withdrew, stopped working and became despondent, started muttering to herself. Galerius and I visited her to see how we could help, but she just looked at us with this haunted stare, called us bloodless shadows and told us we were ignorant of some pattern. Look, it could be unrelated. Perhaps she simply fell ill. Or, as Galerius suggested, the weight of the golden rule was too much for her. But there is a small chance that she learned something, saw a pattern nobody else saw, and that it broke her. I just don't want to see that happen to you. So be careful, will you? Thank you. Now, go and follow the thread of truth through this labyrinth, and come back to me if you discover any patterns. Come back to me once you've acquainted yourself with the rest of our neighbors.
What are you doing in here? Can't you see this woman is dying? She's been poisoned. She needs the resin of a plant called silphium, but that Culus cubulatus decius won't give it to me. What? Quick, give it here. Yulia, you need to swallow this. Here, let me help you. Hopefully, in a moment, she should be able to breathe normally. That was extraordinary. How did you know she needed this exact thing, and at this exact moment? Are you some kind of oracle? But how could you know she needed this exact medicine? And how did you even get it? I guess it doesn't matter. You just saved a person's life, and you should be proud of yourself. She might even be able to thank you herself in a few moments. And maybe she can tell us who poisoned her, and who she meant when she was muttering about that snake's cruel black eyes. In the meantime, I'm happy to help you with whatever it is you need. That's a shame. Thanks again for saving Yulia's life. Apollo smiles upon you.
Oh, it's you. Sorry, I'm still a bit out of it. But thanks for trying to help me, I suppose. Was there something you wanted? Lucretia says I'm supposed to rest. You mean my life story? Oh, well, I grew up as part of a big family in Rome. Me and 3 older sisters. Our father found good husbands for my sisters, but I wasn't cut out for that kind of life. So he found me a job as a scribe for a prominent merchant. It was a good life for a while, until 7 months ago when the fires came. My colleagues and I worked desperately to try to protect our warehouse. We must have had 100 workers passing buckets of water, chanting prayers to Vulcan, but they fell on deaf ears. The fire was relentless, and it claimed everything and everyone. Well, almost everyone. My employer told me to grab what valuables I could and flee for the Tiber with the crowds. I remember diving into the river, and then the next thing I knew, I was waking up on the riverbank not far from here. Thank you. But to be honest, sometimes I think dying in that fire might have been a blessing, given what's happened since. All right. Thank you again for saving my life.
Salve. Hello there, friend. You mean how did I end up here? That is a lengthy tale. All right. Well, you see, I'm in the business of procuring rare and precious objects liberated from the enemies of Rome. Mostly sculptures, vases, the occasional slave, fetch a magnificent price in Roman high society. Had myself a nice little shop in Rome, just off the Forum. Lots of foot traffic and close to the docks. Good place to be when the fires broke out. See, about 7 months ago, half of Rome caught on fire. Everyone who couldn't get to an outer gate was running for the river, hoping to escape by barge. So I gathered my coins and some priceless vases into a cart and had my most loyal slave girl, pretty young thing named Acantha, push it for me. All the way down to the river, I'm elbowing through a stampede of people, turning back now and then to make sure she hasn't legged it with my valuables. But, to my surprise, we make it, and I see this barge loading up, and it's so full it's almost sinking. But the captain's happy to take my coin, so I start boarding, and then he puts his hand on my chest and he says, "No, too heavy. The cart or the girl." So I did what anyone would have done. The girl? Weren't you listening? All my valuables or the girl? I mean, I can always buy a new slave girl if I still have my money. So I put my hand on the cart, and I guess she realised what was happening because those pretty black eyes of hers go all wide. And in one swift motion, she topples the whole bloody thing into the Tiber. No, I dived in after it, of course. Aren't you paying attention? That was a bloody fortune. Only, I guess I must have hit my head or something, because everything went black. When I came to, I'd washed up on the riverbank not far from here, with nothing in the world but a single silver coin. Thank you, friend. But it turns out it might have been a stroke of good fortune, because this place is a veritable treasure trove. Look around you. There must be more gold in here than in the treasury of Rome. If I can just figure out how to get it out of here. Very well. Another time.
Help! You have to do something! A man arrived in the baths. Real nasty sort, with his face all covered up. And he's got a weapon. You have to do something, or he's gonna break the golden rule. Thank you. He's still in there, somewhere. I have to hide. Find me in this empty shrine when it's over. What? Why? All right, fine. Come and find me in my bakery instead. Please be careful.
Stop right there. I'm looking for Tiberius Quinctius Crispus, otherwise known as Quinctius. Do you know where he is? Thank you. For your service to the Empire, I'll let you live for now, but you'd best make sure our paths don't cross again.
Isn't the great temple majestic?
I'm here for Malleolus. Who might you be?
The name's Domitius. You want to get to Malleolus? You go through me.
Then go through you, I shall.
The many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
Salve, friend. Mind? Oh, sounds serious. Yulia? Oh no. Alright, I can do that. Alright, let me see. I'll go, but once I'm done, I'll need you to tell me how you know all of this.
Ixion turns. Just as the ocean accepts the rivers of all the world, so this place accepts all the souls. But it does not notice the crowds that come. You think you wish to know, but you do not. It is better for you if you remain ignorant. Pandora's box must stay closed. I'll say no more. The newly arrived are ignorant of the road before them.
Keep an eye out for Scintilla, would you? What is it, citizen? Well, as I always say, it's kind of like a divine version of the practice of decimation in the Legion. By threatening to execute 1 in 10 men, the idea is to ensure order and discipline among everyone. And it works. If you knew you could be executed because your brother-in-arms is planning a mutiny, well, you'd bloody well watch him like 100-eyed Argus, wouldn't you? Because your only chance of saving yourself is to stop bad things before they happen. Makes us all responsible for keeping each other in check. It's brutal, of course. War crime. Isn't that a contradiction in terms? As Cicero said, in times of war the law falls silent. Seems that way. War crimes. Ridiculous. What's done is done. I was forced to execute my brothers in arms, and those memories will always visit me in my sleep. But life is harsh, and I've come to accept my lot. As with the Golden Rule, I don't have any control over it, so railing against it would be like trying to stop the seasons or the tides. As Seneca the Younger wrote, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied, if you like. He's one of the better commanders I've ever had, that's for sure. Good stoic. Lives by Seneca's words. Treat your inferior. Can't ask for much more than that. Not that it's any of your business, but my loyalty is and always will be with Sentius. Unfortunately, I don't think my vote is going to make any difference today. See, Domitius has been going around town, shoring up votes for Malleolus with lies, bribery and intimidation. The man's a savage. Sentius, this place. I appreciate the thought, but you're new here, and I just can't see how you could make an impact in the time between now and the election this afternoon. In any case, if you're interested in the election, go and have a chat with Equitia, the Vestal Priestess. She'll be overseeing proceedings. All right?
How come you're allowed a weapon and I'm not?
Shiny. Salve and welcome. Need something? Oh, there's not much to tell. I mostly just bake bread and try to help out where I can. I suppose it all started about 8 months ago. I was living in Rome with my family when I got sick. Terrible timing. My pa had just arranged a husband for me, a fisherman's son. I was about to meet him for the first time when I came down with an awful fever. I spent the next week in bed. Pa paid priests to make offerings to Asclepius, a white rooster, then a goat. But nothing worked. In the end, they decided I'd do better outside the city. Clean air in the countryside would do me good, they said. But after about a day in a carriage on the Appian Way, I was getting worse, not better. I remember closing my eyes for a bit, and I guess I must have fell asleep, because when I opened them again, I was in a forest by a river. I suppose the driver took off with his fee and left me for dead. Can't say I blame him. I wouldn't have wanted to catch what I had either. Anyway, I went searching for help, stumbled across the trapdoor temple, and here I am. Oh yeah, I suppose you're right. Hadn't really thought about it. But the gods are mysterious and powerful. Who knows what their plans are for us? All right, thanks again for taking care of our problem. I won't forget it.
A new face. Ave, and may Vesta watch over you. I'm Equitia. To what do I owe the pleasure of this visit? Interesting. I'm not sure why you're telling me, but you've come to the right person. Did you find a pattern then? What have you noticed? Yes, I understand many of our friends were carried here by a river current. What else? Yes, I suppose that could be something. But then most of us do tend to carry coins on our person, don't we? What else? That's true. I know I wasn't entirely sure how I wound up here. It's as I feared. I think I understand what poor Livia has been going through. Let me ask you this. Did you happen to encounter a stranger in the forest before you arrived here? And did you happen to catch her name? I see. And was this Karen, by any chance, wearing a hood? Because I've seen her before. There's something I think you should see. I think you'd better follow me to the baths. But don't follow too closely. We can't have people thinking we're bathing together. That's quite an impressive bow you have there, just like Diana's. We'll talk in the baths. There's something you need to see for yourself. you're here. You were asking how I knew the young woman you met by the river was wearing a hood. Here, look down at the bottom of the baths. It's a little hard to make out in this light. If only we could see. Oh, what a marvelous lamp. But do you see it? Somebody waking up by a river in a forest to find a hooded figure with a coin. It's just as you described it, only your pronunciation is a little off. The name you heard wasn't Karen. It was C-H-A-R-O-N, as in Charon, the ferryman of the dead. Charon, who, in exchange for the right coin, helps the souls of the newly deceased cross the Styx, the river that separates the land of the living from the land of the dead.
When I dragged you out of the river, I thought you were never gonna wake up. I checked your pockets for ID, but all I found was some loose change. Feels like I've spent my whole life in a dead-end job with an endless commute. Sorry if I sounded cagey, it's just that I don't always get the best reactions when I introduce myself. My name's Karen.
There are a bunch of old stories about the gods punishing people by making them do the same futile task over and over. But on the bright side, at least you're not stuck in the underworld like they all were.
I'm so sorry, my friend. I'm so sorry. I take it you know what this means. I'm afraid so. It's all starting to make sense. All these people whose last memory was running from the fires toward the river. It seems none of them escaped with their lives after all. Perhaps we should be grateful they don't remember their final moments. It also tells us that the Golden Rule is the work of Pluto, the god of the underworld, and why his epithet has always been Father of Riches. I know it's a lot to take in, and you look as if you have questions, so I'll try to answer them if I can. Good question. Let's see. In the stories, Charon would always require a coin as payment for passage across the river. But that never made any sense to me. What does an ancient immortal being need with coins? In our case, it seems Charon didn't take the coins we had. He or she merely checked we had one in our possession. So, maybe there's something special about the coins each of us had on us. That might explain why we wound up here, but so many others did not. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting you're not from here. If you were Roman, or even Greek, you would know these stories. Each of them is slightly different, whether the storyteller was Plato, Homer, Virgil, or Ovid. But they always involved the souls of the dead meeting a grim ferryman named Charon on the bank of a river. It was said that he'd help the new arrival cross, only if they could pay him with a coin, an obol. That's why it was once our custom to bury our loved ones with a coin in their mouths. Charon's obol, we called it. Of course, an obol was a kind of Greek coin, because we inherited this knowledge from the Greeks. The only difference is that they spelled it with a kappa, which I suppose means K-H-A-R-O-N, is closer to the original spelling. To be fair, the ferryman isn't exactly as the poets described, and he, she, they seem to appear to different people in different guises. You say you saw a young woman named Karen with a hood, and I once heard Kabash mention a stranger in a ram headdress named Kerti, and Rufius described meeting a stranger named Kumut Tabal wearing an eagle headdress. But whatever form this stranger took, they were always wearing a hood of some sort, and their name always began with a K sound. I suspect the only way you'll solve this riddle is if your paths cross again. No, I mean, I had my suspicions, especially after Livia's ramblings, but I would never have figured it out without your help, I promise you. That was my first thought too. In the old stories, the underworld was where the souls of the deceased were taken. But it was also possible for the living to reach it without dying, if they were particularly fearless. So I'm afraid I don't know. Now that we know where we are, we have to figure out what to do about it, if we don't want to be cast into gold for eternity. We don't have much to go on, except the old stories. I remember 4 in particular about heroes in the underworld. Hercules, the demigod and son of Jupiter, Orpheus, a Thracian poet, Sisyphus, a king of Ephyra, and Aeneas, a Trojan hero. Hercules was able to leave the underworld because he cowed its god with his strength. Sisyphus and Orpheus both relied on their wits instead. They persuaded the goddess of the underworld, Proserpina, to help them escape. And finally, Aeneas was able to escape with the help of a spirit guide, who led him through a secret gate. So it seems you have 2 options: to confront the god of the underworld head-on, or find a way to escape with the help of Proserpina or some other guide. As I mentioned, both Orpheus and Sisyphus were said to have persuaded Proserpina to help them escape, and Aeneas was guided to the exit. The problem is, those are the stories of a poet, a self-aggrandizing king, and a brawler about their own heroic deeds, so they should be taken with a grain of salt. First, Proserpina. What we do know about her is, well, it's a grim tale. It's said the god of the underworld abducted and dragged her here against her will, forcing her into marriage. It is. The gods are a mirror image of mankind, as far as cruelty is concerned, I'm afraid. If the stories are true, I imagine she's as desperate to escape as we are. If she really did help Orpheus and Sisyphus, perhaps she'll help us too. The problem is, how do we communicate with her without being noticed by her captor? Leaving that aside for a moment, there is also the possibility of a spirit guide. I don't suppose you've come across one of those in your travels? Truly? And you're only bringing this up now? Then again, I suppose you were worried I'd think you were as mad as Navia. Can you tell me more? Is it the same voice? What kinds of thing does it say? Fascinating. Perhaps she's a benevolent spirit. Or perhaps... Perhaps you're hearing the voice of Proserpina herself. If she has indeed been abducted, it would make sense for her to speak in cryptic whispers to avoid detection. Tell me, has she told you anything that might lead you to the way out? Truly? Then why are you still here? Then it seems you have made a great sacrifice for all of us, friend. I admire your compassion, truly. Thank you. But unfortunately, I'm afraid your only other option will be to confront you-know-who. That option would be the boldest, but also the only way to learn the truth about the Golden Rule and maybe even put an end to it. As I said, Hercules managed to overpower the god of the underworld, but he was a demigod. Forgive my candor, but you are no Hercules. I'll admit, you do seem different to anyone I've ever met. And even that lamp of yours looks like something Prometheus might have stolen from the gods. So, if you want to confront him, I'll help you as much as I can. Who knows? Perhaps your name will be uttered in the same sentence as Hercules one day. But first, you'd need an audience with you-know-who, and for that, you'll need to enter the great temple overlooking the city. The problem is, the door has been sealed shut for as long as I've lived here, and there doesn't even seem to be a keyhole. I suspect the answer lies in the desecrated obelisk in front of it. I'm not sure if you noticed, but there are 4 plaques missing from its base. It looks as though somebody, or a series of somebodies, forcibly removed them, and in doing so, dishonored and angered our divine keeper. If you could recover and replace all 4 of those missing plaques, I imagine he might be willing to receive an audience again. It's the towering stone monument with 4 sides and a pyramid-shaped head that stands before the great temple, a dedication to the god of this place. You'll find them all over Rome, but of course they were looted from Egypt many years ago. It seems one of them made its way here too, although how is a mystery. However, this one is unusual in that each of the 4 sides is decorated in a different style: Roman, Greek, Egyptian, and another I don't recognize. That means you'll need to recover 4 different plaques: Roman, Greek, Egyptian, and a 4th, a mystery plaque. Good question. To answer that, we first need to ask who would have defaced the obelisk in the first place. It would have had the god's name engraved into it, so it may be that whoever desecrated it wanted that name to be forgotten. And there's only one group of people I know of who might want to do that. There's a cult in Rome that often argued there is only one true god. Theirs, of course. They've been known to start fires, as well as deface religious monuments whose existence challenged their beliefs. If I were you, I'd go looking for them. Of course, they've all been in hiding since the fire last year, so finding them won't be easy. But I did hear a rumor they have a secret shrine somewhere in the city. Perhaps, if you could find that, you might be able to recover the Roman plaque. I don't know. But perhaps you should begin your search with the local Greek fellow, Georgius. His store is in the forum. Perhaps Kabash, our Egyptian resident, would be able to tell us. Unfortunately, he disappeared weeks ago. But I did hear Aurelia is peddling rumors about him at the tavern, so perhaps you could talk to her, or just take a look in his room. I'm afraid you're on your own with that one, but perhaps the goddess will help guide you to it when the time is right. All Romans try to avoid saying it, and the reason is quite simple. He might hear us. You may refer to him as Pluto, if you wish, but you'll only be calling attention to yourself. Do so at your own peril. Shh! Is everyone so blunt where you're from? Oh. That option would be the boldest, but also the only way to learn the truth about the Golden Rule, and maybe even put an end to it. As I said, Hercules managed to overpower the god of the underworld, but he was a demigod. Forgive my candor, but you are no Hercules. Are you telling me that you can? I won't pretend to understand exactly what that means, but if that's true, then perhaps you stand a chance. So, if you want to confront him, I'll help you as much as I can. Who knows? Perhaps your name will be uttered in the same sentence as Hercules one day. But first, you'd need an audience with you-know-who, and for that, you'll need to enter the great temple overlooking the city. The problem is, the door has been sealed shut. I suspect it looks if you... It's the towering... However, that means... It's a reasonable question, but the problem is, this place is fairly well designed to keep us here. There's no way to climb up the shaft. And even if you could build a ladder big enough, just trying it would break the Golden Rule. We know that, thanks to the writings left behind by those who've tried. All right. I would suggest not discussing this with anyone. The best we can do for them is to let them remain oblivious for as long as possible. As for Livia, it seems she's been shouldering the weight of this terrible secret all this time. Perhaps it would comfort her to know she's not alone. In any case, time is of the essence, so you'd best begin. May Fortuna guide you. Although you may not need her with Proserpina on your side.